Hey class, before we read chapter 10, I want to remind you that last chapter we were thinking a lot about predicting. And predicting really well means to think about the characters and think about what they would do next. And we can think really well about them because we become them. We know them so well. Now, I want to share a story with you about a student who I had taught years ago. His name was Leo. Now, Leo was a really small kid. He was tiny. All the other kids towered over Leo in his class. And I can tell that Leo really wished that he was taller, bigger. Leo would be what we might call a shrimp. Somebody who's just really small and scrawny. Somebody who wished they were bigger, but they just weren't. Now, Leo used to love to read about big, strong animals. And one day I sat beside him and I listened to him read about gorillas. And I found the book. Here's what he read about gorillas. Let's try and imagine, though, what Leo was thinking about when he read this book to me. Gorillas that have silver backs become the leaders of their tribe. They are not born with silver backs. Baby gorillas are born dark, but as they mature, some gorillas get a splash of silver on their backs. The silver signifies that this gorilla will become the tribe's leader. And then Leo looked up from his book and he said to me, I bet every gorilla every morning wakes up and looks at his butt to see if he's got any silver hairs on it. And then one day he's like, yeah, I got it. Now, what did Leo do just there? Those years ago, he was predicting. He was using his own knowledge about himself, how he's a shrimp. He's small, right? So he can picture what those little gorillas might be feeling. Every day he can picture them. He can imagine that they're checking their butts to see if it's silver. And then one day, finally, one of the gorillas notices that it's silver, and then that little gorilla realizes, oh, I'm going to be the leader of the tribe. I'm going to be that silverback. So Leo predicted well. He's doing good work. He realized what could possibly happen. Now, maybe the little gorilla didn't say, yeah, it's going to be me. I'm going to be the silverback in the book. Maybe that didn't exactly happen, but you can see how that was a really good prediction that Leo made. Let's read the next chapter now and practice predicting.
Chapter 10. Rob was sweeping the laundry room when Willie Mae, the Kentucky Star's housekeeper, came in and threw herself down in one of the metal chairs that were lined up against the cement block wall. You know what? She said to Rob. No, ma'am, said Rob. I tell you what, said Willie Mae. She reached up and adjusted the butterfly clip in her thick black hair. I'd rather be sweeping up after some pigs in a barn than cleaning up after the people in this place. Pigs at least give you some respect. Rob leaned on his broom and stared at Willie Mae. He liked looking at her. Her face was smooth and dark, like a beautiful piece of wood. And Rob liked to think that if he had been the one who carved Willie Mae, he would have made her just the way she was, with her long nose and high cheekbones and slanted eyes. What you staring at? Willie Mae asked. Her eyes narrowed. What you doing out of school? Rob shrugged. I don't know, he said. What you mean you don't know? Rob shrugged again. Don't be moving your shoulders up and down in front of me, acting like some skinny old bird trying to fly away. You want to end up cleaning motel rooms for a living? Rob shook his head. That's right. Ain't nobody want this job. I'm the only fool Beauchamp can pay to do it. You got to stay in school, she said, else you'll end up like me. She shook her head and reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a single cigarette and 2 sticks of 8-ball licorice gum. She put one piece of gum in her mouth, handed the other one to Rob, lit her cigarette, leaned back in the chair, and closed her eyes. "Now," she said. The scent of smoke and licorice slowly filled the laundry room. "Go on and tell me why you ain't in school." "On account of my legs being all broke out," said Rob. Willie Mae opened her eyes and looked over the top of her glasses at Rob's legs. She said after a minute. "How long you had that?" "About 6 months," said Rob. "I can tell you how to cure that," said Willie Mae, pointing with her cigarette at his legs. "I can tell you right now. Don't need to go to no doctor." "Huh?" said Rob. He stopped chewing his gum and held his breath. What if Willie Mae healed him and then he had to go back to school? "Sadness," said Willie Mae, closing her eyes and nodding her head. "You keeping all that sadness down low in your legs. You're not letting it get up to your heart where it belongs. You got to let that sadness rise on up." "Oh," said Rob. He let out his breath. He was relieved. Willie Mae was wrong. She couldn't cure him. "The principal thinks it's contagious," he said. "Man ain't got no sense," Willie Mae said. "He's got lots of certificates," Rob offered. "They're all framed and hung up on his wall." "I bet he ain't got no certificate for sense, though," said Willie Mae darkly. She rose up out of her chair and stretched. "I got to clean some rooms," she said. "You ain't going to forget what I told you about them legs, are you?" "No, ma'am," said Rob. "What'd I tell you then?" she said, towering over him. Willie Mae was tall, the tallest person Rob had ever seen. "To let the sadness rise," Rob said. He repeated the words as if they were part of a poem. He gave them a certain rhythm, the same way Willie Mae had when she said them. "That's right," said Willie Mae. "You got to let the sadness rise on up." She left the room in a swirl of licorice and smoke. After she was gone, Rob wished that he had told her about the tiger. He felt a sudden desperate need to tell somebody. Somebody who wouldn't doubt him. Somebody who was capable of believing in tigers.
I don't know about you, but I think Willie Mae is my favorite character so far because of how honest she seems to talk and because of the way the author describes her. She's very interesting. I certainly don't like that she's a smoker, but I like that she just talks so plainly. She talks truth to Rob, and I can tell that he likes her. After all, it says that he wished he had told her about the tiger. And I think that might mean that Rob believes that she would believe him. It's time for you to make another prediction. What do you think is going to happen next, in the next chapter? Maybe you'll tell about what Rob does about the tiger. Maybe you'll tell about who Rob decides to talk to about it. Maybe it'll be Willie Mae. Maybe you'll tell about what you think Rob will do next time he sees Willie Mae, or what he'll do next time he sees Sistine. Or it's up to you. Make that prediction.